you go.
No, the old Rock-a-Doodle-Doo flick is not Disney.
I wish
I
it
do
was.
remember that one though.
I do too. Yeah, I actually watched it on a daycare sleepover. So basically, we had 30 kids in a room who were between 4 and 6 years old, and the people in charge basically put that movie on and left.
Oh boy.
That was great.
Yes, Lord Carpenter. It is about a singing rooster who he lives on a farm and decides to go to the city and become a big rock star, and owls come to his farm and try to eat all the animals.
Yeah, because it turns out that he is literally the god of the sun, and only his cockadoodle will actually make the sun rise. Somehow.
Oh,
But he-
I remember watching that as a kid.
Yeah, when he
That's how
was...
roosters actually work.
Yeah. Well, he was in the city, he forgot how to cock-a-doodle-doo. And there's also a human boy who gets turned into a cat, who is sent by the farm animals to go get the rooster and bring him back.
Yeah. That is a really, really strange car chase, I remember, for some reason. And also a scene where the owls are literally passing around the animals that they are going to devour alive.
Please pass the pork.
Great
They pass
scene.
around a... Yeah, and then
Yeah.
they pass around the pig.
And the guy and the owl that had the pig ends up with that tiny little chicken, and he just looks at it and goes, "Oh,
Yes.
god damn it!"
It might have been... Yeah, it might have been a Don Bluth film, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's Don Bluth. Yeah, the other creative mind in animation.
Yes.
Hall of the Dog.
Yeah, favorite Don Bluth movie. Go.
I don't actually watch movies
All dogs go to heaven.
Star Wars.
or television.
Star Wars was by Don Bluth. Yes, that is correct. He was the real director behind the scenes. But yeah, All Dogs Go to Heaven is actually probably mine as well. I really like All Dogs Go to Heaven. Which I also saw at the
it's
same
much
freaking
better.
daycare, I realized. Holy shit, what was wrong with the people working there? Why would you show movies like that to 4-year-olds?
They wanted to traumatize you.
You will learn to fear us.
Yeah, Anastasia, and I think he also did a Tinkerbell, Thumbelina movie.
Yeah,
That
Thumbelina.
was pretty good.
And of course, A Troll in Central Park, which is the best movie ever made.
I don't think I ever got to see that one. And that
Don't.
one,
It's terrible.
I
Did-
could go check if you did Ferngully.
Yeah, actually, did he do Ferngully? That's an excellent question.
Give me a second. I know we have a VHS. Yeah, VHS. Woohoo! Over in the other room. So let me go look real fast.
Go for it. Should I have a VHS player at my feet right now? That is how 80s I am.
I have a VHS player that's actually still plugged into an analog TV, I think.
But you said you don't watch movies, so what do you watch?
I don't. I don't watch anything.
You just have it standing there.
Yes. It's just there.
Tempting
I
you.
have a VHS player, but it's been stripped for electronics components.
Well, then you don't actually really have a VHS player, do you? You have more like the husk of a VHS player lacking important parts for operation. To be perfectly fair.
Well, it was already broken.
It was already dead, so I ripped out its guts.
All of the
Maybe guitar.
daughters. Oh. All of the...
Is it Nathan Bedford Forrest time?
Yes.
I can hear it coming.
Or
I hear the
daughters.
cavalry riding over the hill, and Forrest is at their fall. My mother was amazing, he shouts as they charge.
And she was so tall.
The author of this book was actually also a pretty interesting guy. John Allen Wyeth. He was behind a lot of medical reforms, I think.
Also, very quickly, it does not look like Fern Gully is a Don Bluth film. So
There you go. Because I was sort of taken aback because I don't connect Bluth with that movie at all, so I'm pretty sure it wasn't him.
so sorry, Forrest.
All of the daughters of William and Marion Forrest died early in life.
Because they were girls, you see.
The sons, whose names have just been given, are now, in 1898, all dead. Of the 3 sons by her second husband, the eldest 2 entered the Confederate service. The third was too young to be mustered in. After the war, these children, one of whom became Sheriff of Uvalde County, accompanied by their mother, moved to Texas, where she died and was buried in Navasota in 1867.
Only the state of Texas was big enough to bury that woman in. There we go, another level 3 unicorn, finally.
Macbeth's surprising apostrophe to his fearless wife might well apply to the son and mother who consecrated 8 sons to the god of war. Bring forth men children only. One or two incidents in the life of General Forrest's mother will serve to emphasize what has been said in regard to her physical prowess, as well as her strong and determined will. They are not the less interesting in the fact that the same characteristics belong to her illustrious son, who at the period mentioned was but a boy 15 years of age. When the Forrests first settled in Mississippi, so sparsely peopled was this portion of the country, from which the Indians had but recently been removed, that it was some 10 miles to their nearest neighbor. Roads were practically unknown, and those that existed were little better than bridle paths through the woods and cane brakes, and had to be traveled on foot or on horseback. On one occasion, Mrs. Forrest and her sister, Fanny Beck, who lived with her, started out on horseback to pay a visit to this neighbor. When they were leaving for home late in the afternoon, her hostess presented her with a basket containing several young chickens. Their return trip was without incident until they had arrived within a mile of their cabin. The sun had gone down, and it was beginning to grow quite dark. At this moment they heard the yelp or scream of a panther in the dense woods and only a few yards distant. They realized at once that the hungry beast had scented the chickens and was bounding through the cane and undergrowth to secure its prey. At the first yelp of the animal, the horses became frightened and broke into a run. Their riders, or at least one of them, was alarmed, and both urged their horses towards home as fast as they could go with safety over the narrow and rough trail. Mrs. Forrest's sister shouted to her from her position in front as they were galloping along to drop the basket and let the panther have the chickens, which would stop it. But Marion Beck was not that sort of woman. There was too much determination and Scotch grit in her, and she declined to do as she was bid. She was not going to let any varmint have her chickens.
Trust a woman of that caliber to call a panther a varmint.
Yeah, I was just thinking the exact same thing.
And on they sped. The horses...
Go ahead.
The horses holding the panther safely in their wake until they approached the creek which ran nearby their cabin. On account of the high banks of the stream and the depths of the water, They were compelled, as they reached it, to slacken their speed almost to a standstill to prevent the horses from falling as they slid down the declivity and struck the water. This slowing up enabled their swift pursuer to gain on them rapidly, and mad with hunger to such a desperate degree that it had lost the natural fear of human beings. The beast leaped from the top of the bank, striking Mrs. Forrest on the shoulder and the side of the neck with his front paws, while the claws of the hind feet sank deeply into the back of the animal she was riding. Smarting under the pain and wild with fright, the horse plunged forward so quickly that the hold of the panther was torn loose, and at the same time the rider's clothes were ripped from her back, and several deep, lacerated wounds were inflicted in the flesh of the shoulders as the beast fell into the water. The screams of the women brought the whole household out from the cabin, which was situated on the opposite bluff, and Bedford Forrest came running with his dogs to the rescue. The mother, still holding on to her basket of chickens, was lifted from the saddle and tenderly cared for by her eldest son and his aunt. As soon as she was made as comfortable as possible, young Forrest took his flintlock rifle from the rack above the fireplace and started towards the door to call his dogs. His mother asked him what he was going to do. He said, "Mother, I am going to kill that beast if it stays on the earth."
Youch.
I have a book with a lot of horses in it.
Oh?
Yeah. It's Blood Meridian.
Oh.
Here's a good scene involving a horse while we're reading from books. Debasing ourselves. The leader of these jackal warriors was a small, dark man in cast-off Mexican military attire, and he carried a sword. And he carried in a torn and gaudy baldric one of the Whitneyville Colts that had belonged to the scouts. He sat his horse before Glanton and assessed the position of the other riders, and then asked in good Spanish where were they bound. He had no sooner spoken than Glanton's horse leaned its jaw forward and seized the man's horse by the ear. Blood flew. The horse screamed and reared, and the Apache struggled to keep his seat and drew his sword and found himself staring into the black lemniscate that was the paired bores of Glanton's double rifle. Glanton slapped the muzzle of his horse twice hard, and it tossed its head with one eye blinking and blood dripping from its mouth. The Apache wrenched his pony's head around, and when Glanton spun to look at his men, he found them frozen in deadlock with the savages, they and their arms wired into a construction taut and fragile as those puzzles wherein the placement of each piece is predicated upon every other, and they in turn so that none can move for bringing down the structure entirely. That was a complicated sentence.
That's what makes a good book, you know. Long, complicated sentences that don't say very much. But yeah, horses bite. Don't mess with horses.
And they bite other horses.
Yeah. Because horses generally dislike other horses, actually, which is sort of interesting. If they don't know the other horse, they dislike it intensely.
I rode a horse once.
So did I. I've also rode a camel and an elephant.
I fell off face first into mud.
Oh. I did not. I fared slightly better. But yeah, shit, let's go down the list. What have you ridden? I have ridden a horse, I have ridden a pony, I have ridden a dromedary, I have ridden a camel, I've ridden an elephant, and at one time when I was too small to remember, I have also rode on a turtle.
I'm guessing that was a big turtle.
It was a big turtle indeed.
I have ridden no animals.
How big?
Buddy Gribble is a man. He stands and walks on his own feet.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, I'll have one. Oh, sorry, other side. Okay, yeah, it's behind that backpack. See, pretty well hidden. Yeah, just a snapple, please. Thank you. When are we leaving? 10 after? Okay. Okay, thanks. Sorry, I had someone come down real fast.
Tell them I said hi.
10 after what?
No, I have to, we're heading up to see some friends. And so, I've got about 15 or so more minutes.
Oh, you got to miss the ending.
I am. I'll have to watch it on YouTube. I'm
Man,
a little disappointed.
that is going to take months, though. Literally months until the last video goes up.
Ask why you.
Well,
you're
either one of
uploading
two
them
things is
the way
going to
that you are.
happen then.
Overflight. If I had a copy of the fifth book with me, I could just read a wonderful, wonderful scene.
Ah, Game of Thrones. A series of books that I have never read and do not care to read.
Oh, but I could explain that scene.
Let me tell you about Game of Thrones. And suddenly Dotai's dropped from the
Yeah.
call mysteriously.
Uh-oh.
Shit.
By the way, my
That-
book from earlier, Blood Meridian, is a very good book. I heartily recommend it.
It
To
is
all.
actually a really good book, yeah. Blood Meridian is a good book.
I read The Road from the same author, but haven't read that one yet.
Javelin, someone already made the Economy Burgers horse meat joke like 40 minutes ago. Come on,
Little
step it
late there.
up. And seriously, I basically just ruined myself for fantasy literature when I read the entire Dragonlance series when I was like 8 or 9, maybe? My father just came home with this, double brick-sized book of over 1,600 pages, and it was basically the collected Dragonlance story, and he said, yeah, well, you like reading, so I picked this up, Sheep. And I just poured through that entire fucking book. And at the end, I had basically become so inundated with, just fantasy prose that I was completely destroyed mentally.
I could imagine. I tried reading one of them when I was around that same age, and I couldn't get through it.
Tapam,
I-
I know that Dragonlance is a lot bigger than that these days because because they have been adding books. They haven't stopped. But this was quite a while ago, as in almost 20 years ago.
I once.
Did we know what Frankenstein?
Oh hey, another book coming in the Ringwald series. Well, there you go.
Oh, I once heard someone describe the Game of Thrones series as erotic War of the Roses fanfiction, which is about accurate.
Yeah.
Sounds about right, yeah. And Sudden Javelin's favorite series of books, the Ringworm series. Gripping tale of people suffering from ringworm.
She tried to dissuade him from going into the woods at that hour, asking him to wait until daylight when he could see what he was doing. The boy replied that by that time the trail would be so cold the dogs would not be able to follow it. That he was going now while the scent was fresh. The hounds would soon run it into a tree, and away he went into the darkness. The hounds soon picked up the trail and followed it for miles through swamps and briars and canebrakes until nearly midnight. After an hour or so of the chase, the boy perceived it would tax his strength sorely to keep up with the dogs, and fearing that they would get out of hearing and reach of him, he cut a small grapevine, tied it around the neck of one of the oldest hounds, and held it fast at the other end of the tether. At times, the other dogs would get out of hearing, but the captive hound followed unerringly upon the trail, and after a while, far in the distance, he heard the baying of the pack, which told him that they had at last treed the panther. It was too dark when he arrived to see the beast, so he waited patiently until the day began to break, and then he saw it lying stretched at full length on a large limb, lashing its cat-like tail from side to side and snarling with its white teeth at the dogs, which had never taken their eyes from it or given it a moment's peace. Putting a fresh primer into the pan of his flintlock, and taking steady aim, the young huntsman sent a bullet through its heart that fell limp and dead to the earth.
And naturally, it's a hot shot. Where else?
Cutting off the scalp and ears, he started for home, where about 9 o'clock the same morning he arrived to show his mother the trophy he had won. An officer of distinction and a close observer who served under Forrest from the beginning, writing of his influence upon his men after the first few weeks of service, says, "In the short period since its organization, this command found that it was a strong will, impervious to argument, appeal, or threat, which was to be the governing impulse in their movements. Everything necessary to supply their wants, to make them comfortable, he was quick to do, save to change his plans, to which everything had to bend. That the same unbending will came to him by direct inheritance seems evident from the following incident." I'm gonna get another drink.
Okay.
Please do. Man, the Forrest family. There's these crazy, indestructible, headstrong buggers living in the middle of nowhere.
We can get heart shots on cougars.
Panthers, even. But it was probably a cougar, yeah.
Well, different names for the same animal.
Fun fact, there was a time in my town where there was a cougar sighted. So then everybody freaked out about there being a cougar, and letters were sent home from school, and it was just the talk of the town that there was a cougar about.
There be cougars about. But luckily,
Yep.
3 days later, the police cornered a 40-year-old woman in an alleyway and shot her dead. And so the young men were no longer at risk.
She was the ringleader.
Yeah.
Now, I know we have some in the area, just because I live right up against the mountains. You don't really hear too much about them, though there's a group that owns the house of the guy who helped found the city, and he lives in this beautiful area, and they know they have a cougar mother who lives there, and occasionally she has cubs, and every now and then they will find a dead deer carcass just lying out. And they're like, oh, well, she caught something. So,
Strange, isn't it, how people who actually live in close proximity to carnivores generally treat them with a degree of calm and rationality, while people who live in urban areas literally piss themselves when they hear that there's a black bear 10 miles within the city limits.
yeah, it's...
Peculiar.
I mean, we had a massive golf tournament several years ago, and pod day, a black bear ended up wandering onto the course.
And then he won.
Of the cup. Yeah, he
I
did.
was about to say, best player on the grass.
It was pretty funny to see the pictures and video of it, because he's just chilling out, walking around the middle of the golf course, and you see all the golfers just standing around going, okay, when are you going to go, bear?
But he should be glad he wasn't wearing a cap with the logo of the course they were playing on, because then all the golfers would start striking balls at him and laughing at him.
I would be wearing the logo of the hotel, because the course is at one of the best hotels in the country. And so they'd be, hitting balls at the hotel that's putting them up. I'm not sure the hotel would have appreciated.
Golf. I like golf. I'm a terrible upper middle class person in that regard, that I actually enjoy the sport of golf. And I'm actually one of those people who think of golf as a sport, just that for starters.
Oh, I tried to play golf when I was at 3 years old. But I kind of just ended up hitting my father with the golf club.
Yeah, sounds about right.
I tried golf once, and it was just hitting the ball type thing. I couldn't even hit the ball, so I'm like, you know what? This isn't for me.
I tried mini golf.
And you also hit people with it.
Yeah, some.
My
Yeah.
father actually had several trophies for golf
Well,
and pool.
Anything you can bet on.
Well, also, I actually did not mention any of my southern ancestors, Arthur. They were all on my mother's side.
Well, I don't know of any other ancestors you have, so that is what I had to settle with.
Actually, none of the ancestors that I mentioned were Southern.
They sounded very Southern to me.
Oh, they were from Massachusetts.
Massachusetts, Deep South, roughly the same, isn't it?
No, that's actually where a good chunk of my family's from. So
They're
no,
all
we're those,
Americans anyway.
we're those damn Yankees.
They're all the same.
No, we're from.
Alright everyone, let's treat the US like the US treats us. America? Which state is that in?
Howdy, y'all.
So are you one of those Christian fundamentalists or one of those that shoot up schools? Huh.
Well, you know, I'm just a good Christian, and I live in the South.
My
My
goodness.
mother is actually one of those American exceptionalists who isn't even acting like the U.S. is that good. They're just saying that literally everywhere else in the world is hell on earth.
I see. Well, to be perfectly fair, I usually say that the United States is the richest third world country in the world. Because from the Scandinavian perspective, a lot of your culture and your economy in particular, it just seems absolutely terrifying. Like, oh,
Yeah.
you broke your leg. Well, enjoy losing your job and dying due to not being able to pay for healthcare.
That can happen.
Yeah, that sort of thing doesn't really exist here. We basically go, oh, you broke your leg. Well, don't worry, we'll fix you right up. And then you have things like at-will employment and stuff that you can just basically fire someone. If you even tried that shit here, the unions would smash your company from inside out.
Unions lost a lot of power in like around the 50s, I think. 50s
Yeah.
or 60s.
And that's why I'm emigrating.
Yeah. And as Frankenstein brings up here, his kidneys failed and he had to go to the emergency room and live at the hospital for a few days just to basically keep him alive, more or less. And the only thing that actually cost him money was the food and board, because we basically have a small nominal fee at the hospitals to basically pay for the dishwashing and clean linens and so on, and it came to a grand total of roughly $8 US.
Jeez.
The same treatment in any standard United States hospital, especially in an urban area, would have become down to the thousands of dollars, money that Frankenstein did not have at the time.
Yeah.
So, as he and I sometimes joke, had he actually been an American citizen, he would have been dead. And that is basically why we, socialist assholes up here can feel a certain sense of superiority in regards to, the whole social development thing. That said, the US does offer a lot more opportunities and a shitload more of everything than a nation like Sweden does, so I guess it just comes down to whether or not you're willing to take the risks. Which is why so many people emigrate to the US still.
Yeah.
Nation chat.
Alright, well, I'm gonna head off now just so I have enough time to finish getting some stuff ready. So,
Right, you are.
I'm sorry I'm gonna have
See
to
ya.
miss the end of Secret of the Magic Crystals. I do look forward to seeing them at some point in the far future.
At some point.
So,
I can render a low bitrate video of the ending and send it to you over Skype.
yeah. if it's really cool, that would be great. If it's just really terrible, it's like, oh, and all the horses, it was proven all the horses were magic text and stuff. No. No, I'll ask
You're
chat.
probably going to come back and like next Saturday you come, hey guys, and everyone is just sitting all quiet in the chat and just staring at the floor. No one wants to talk about it.
That bad, huh?
It's just going to be a black
Right.
screen with the words "the end."
Yes. All right. Well, you guys have a good day and a good night in some cases. So, and I'll
Likewise.
talk to you guys later.
Give him hell.
All right.
See ya.
And Southern Javelin is playing around with one of those online anagram things and has figured out that Arthur D. Wolf is an anagram for Rad Flower Hut. Yeah.